All right, let me welcome you to the Inland Wetlands Commission meeting of Monday, July 15th. This is our regular meeting at 7:00 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Will the secretary take the roll, please?
Yes, Chair Stepanek,
Here.
Dan Stepanek,
Here.
Angela Jameson, present. Beth Brunali.
No, she's not here.
Beth Sanford. Here. Priscilla Woike.
No.
Sandy Redden.
Here.
Katie Owsley. Adam Ramirez.
Here. We do not need to substitute anyone.
Yes, you do. You could see Adam for the first two applications.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Okay, okay.
You can't mute it.
I'd like to have Adam Ramirez. I'd like to substitute him for who?
Priscilla?
Priscilla. She's not
sure.
even here. For Priscilla. Okay. The
Yes,
first two.
The first two.
Applications, okay? Then you recuse yourself after that, yeah.
understood.
Before we move on, I wanted to tell everyone on the commission that George Perkins has passed away.
Yeah.
He resigned in January, and he's gone in July. George was a great, a wonderful thinker, and he had a lot of good ideas and a lot of good questions for the applicants, and we're certainly going to miss him. We're certainly going to miss him. Yeah. Approval of the agenda. You all have a copy of the agenda. Is there any comments or anything? Yes.
I move approval of the agenda.
Beth Sanford, I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion's carried. Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of June 17th. You'll have a copy of that. Any comments, deletions, or anything? If not, can I hear a motion?
I make a motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting.
Yep.
Second.
Second. Sandy, second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
This is Angela Jameson. I'm abstaining as I didn't attend the June 17th
Oh, that's
meeting.
right, yeah. Site visit minutes of June 26th. Again, you'll have a copy of that. If you don't have any questions or comments, can I hear a motion? I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that. Angela Jameson.
All those in favor? All those
Aye.
opposed? Motion's carried. Now we'll open the regular meeting. Applications to be received and if complete will be scheduled for the September 16th regular meeting. Just remember, everyone, that we do not have an August meeting. Application number 24-27, 677 South Avenue, Town of New Canaan. Since we normally go to a public hearing for a town application, I think I'd like to hear a motion to have a public hearing on this particular application, 2427, 677 South Avenue, in September.
This is Angela Jameson for the record. I move that we schedule a public hearing at our next regular meeting in the public interest, as we are dealing with an application from the town to do work in Waveney Park.
A second?
Second the motion.
All those in favor? All right.
Aye.
Then the second application we hear in September is number 2428, 716 Ponus Ridge Road. So those are the two we're going to hear. We want to try to schedule a site visit for September 4th for these two applications. Is there anyone that cannot make September 4th?
Angela Jameson, no, I cannot make September 4th.
Okay. Could you make the September 5th?
Yes, I believe so. Let me just have a quick look. Yep, Thursday, September 5th would work for me.
What about September
Tuesday,
5? So we'll make sure everybody's there.
I should be
You
able
can
to.
do it. I can do it.
Fifth is Thursday. Works.
Can you do it, Beth?
Yeah, I can do it.
So let's do it September
great.
4th. Yeah.
I'll switch it.
Okay. Continuing with the regular meeting, number 7, application number 24-23, 513 Main Street. I won't read all of this, but Barbara Wilson is the agent.
Jeff
Hello
Sandruder.
there. Yep.
I'm sorry, Barbara. I just wanted to introduce Jeff, who's in the room and took a seat at the podium there. You may see that. So I'll just turn it over to you just to introduce yourself to the commission members.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Sandler. I live at 513 Main Street. I own the property at 513 Main Street. And we are correct. Presented. Whatever recommendations you have. And move forward so that we are no longer out. And Barbara's here to help with explain.
Okay, Barbara, you're on. You can share your screen.
Oh, okay.
Can you see the screen okay?
Yeah, we can see it, Barbara.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm Barbara Wilson. I'm a licensed landscape architect. I'm representing the owners of 503 and 513 Main Street. So after the installation of underground drainage system from property 503 connecting to 513, I put together a remediation planting plan. Once they remove the pipe, the silt, trap rock, we propose to reinstall dirt, fill the hole, and then plant a combination of native flowering wetland shrubs, the Clethra alnifolia or summersweet, as well as filling in the ground cover with some cinnamon ferns. Most of that area that was damaged had either Pachysandra or burning bush. So we were thinking that this would be a good influx of some native materials in this area that was impacted. The only area that we're not going to put in native plants at this point is starting at the edge of the wetlands here, which is in the backyard of 513. We're just going to put a contractor's, say, a grass mix there for now, because there is going to be future updates to this property, and we thought it was relevant to just stabilize that until the work starts in that that property. So hopefully some of this is also on a neighbor's property a bit. So I know Jeff has contacted them in this regards. So it's pretty simple. We're putting back native plants and hoping to reestablish the wetlands in that area. Anybody have any questions?
Yes.
Angela Jameson for the record. Well, it's very nice of you to be here. We're very pleased that you are joining us this evening, and thank you for saying we inadvertently did something we shouldn't have done, and now we want to just put it right. Could either you or Barbara Wilson just outline for us very briefly what the drainage was that was put in, and what has had to be disturbed to take it out.
Jeff, just on, I forgot to tell you this, another instruction on that mic in front of you, there's a little push button, push that till the light goes green. Push it hard. There you go.
Sure. Basically, what we did is we put in a trench probably about 18 inches wide, put in some trap rock and a corrugated pipe in there to get rid of some of the water that was back there. And it was obviously it was incorrect, and that's what we did, and we're looking to remedy that. So it's just a simple trench with some trap rock and pipe.
And will you be taking the pipe out?
Yes.
And
Yes.
how will that be done? By hand, or will you need to have some equipment in there to do that?
I would assume we'd have a small backhoe that goes in and takes it out, because that's the easiest way to do. And we'll just rip the pipe out and stockpile the stone and get it out of the affected areas and stockpile it or remove it and stockpile it in a location that's obviously not.
This is Dan. Did you do it yourself, or did you have somebody do it for you? And did that person that did it for you not know?
I did it. It was
You
me.
did it yourself?
Mea culpa.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Temporary insanity. Please.
Just a quick question is Beth Sanford for the record. When did you do that? How long ago did this take place?
I think it was. It was in the spring.
This year?
Yes.
Question, I don't know who this would go to, either you or to Barbara, but you mentioned that there was Burning Bush and Pachysandra. That was taken out during this installation?
Just.
Yes.
Yeah, within that, yes, that little area. Yes.
Is there someone living in the house now? There's no one living in the house, is there?
Not in 513. In 503, that's where my wife and I live.
That's where you live.
Yes.
And what are your plans for the house, if I may ask?
The plan next door is to build a new home, single family home.
You can tear it down? Is that what you said?
Yes, it's a 1940s ranch,
Yeah. No, I've been out there. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
of course. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you mind pointing where the trench is? I was there also, but I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right. Maybe Barbara could, because she has control over the.
Yes. So where these blobs are and these shrubs, it's basically right underneath them, right here. And then it continues down and then connects with an existing catch basin, which is in this area. So it's basically centered between these two lines of silt fence, which are these two lines out here. So basically straight down the middle. Does that help?
Yes. Thank you.
This is Angela Jameson for the record. So I assume you did this because you've got a flooding or ponding issue. Obviously, this application deals with remediation, but will you need to undertake some additional activities to deal with the drainage problem that you feel you have?
That's sort of a TBD to see, quite frankly. There was a little bit of, with all those rains that we had, there was a little bit of water coming into our yard, and this really didn't help at all. So, we may just take it back to the original, environment and leave it at that.
Yeah, maybe it's an area that was meant to pond.
Maybe.
So just a little background history on this is is it 503 is the new construction?
513.
513 is the new construction. So the one on the lower portion, that one was coming through for demolition and new construction. So the Sandrooters, Jeff and his wife, live at 503. And not until sort of I started investigating this area did he realize that he actually did have wetlands on his own property, because that extra wetlands that was flagged onto number 503 was just done as part of the violation that was found. So sort of one thing led to another in this case. But Jeff's been very cooperative in getting this situation rectified. He's been held up from starting any activities at number 513, pending, sort of the outcome and resolution of this matter. I think the information that Barbara has provided, working with Jeff to basically undo what's done, is the best case scenario for this particular location. It's not a huge wetland violation, but it is a wetland violation because you can't put a pipe into a wetlands and then crisscross over to another property. He's the owner of both properties. However, it's two different entities. So it gets a little complicated in that regard. And also adding additional water to our storm street sewer is not an activity that we promote from happening unless you get special approvals. So I am comfortable with what Barbara and Jeff have worked out for a mitigation plan. In addition, I think it is important that since number 513 is going to be undergoing construction activities, that a full-on landscaping plan to finish that rear area is not done at this time, but it can be done with the new administrative wetland application that he's frankly has pending right now. So temporarily providing stabilization, basically reset the stage with these two lots, and then hopefully he'll be able to move forward. I know he will successfully with the next phase of what might be happening here. So.
Kathleen, just to kind of clarify what you just said. So are you suggesting that after the construction that he might entertain some more plannings that will help to benefit the wetlands, and that might be a condition that we would offer?
Well, it sounds to me like that. Well, you could put it within this permit for sure, but I wouldn't do that planting until he finishes the
Right, no,
construction.
so,
yeah,
but a condition upon the completion of the construction, whenever that might be in the future.
yeah, that appropriate landscaping, to complement what's already been provided on the other properties. That's
Okay.
appropriate.
Yeah, this is Dan again. Is there water coming on this property from other properties, neighborhood property?
Yes, it is.
There is, huh?
It is. There's a large wetlands on 513 where it's like kind of a low point for the vicinity, the area to come in, and that's where the water accumulates.
I see.
So, we didn't know it was technically wetlands over on 503, but still, and we're going to have a plan for the wetlands in the back of 513 down the road a little bit. And we'll present that to Kathy and do whatever we need to do properly to have that reviewed and approved.
If some of the commissioners noticed that 513 does have a lot of debris and things that have been dumped in that rear area, Jeff, as the newish owner of 513, recognizes that as well, and hand picking up that debris will sometimes help with whatever's happening flow wise in that rear area of 513, which has not been maintained in any way, shape, or form. So what you might do beyond that could trigger another actual review from the commission. But I think for now, it's not a substantial amount of water. It is a ponded pocket wetlands. It's fairly large, it's sort of a remnant wetlands in this area. The pipe along the southern portion of, or I guess it'd be the western portion of 513 does capture a lot of water and takes it to the street existing on big storms. So.
Any special conditions?
I thought I did mention something in my staff report. Let me just take a peek at that. For 513, after reviewing everything, I would recommend that the commission add a special condition that upon removal of the piping and stone, an inspection shall be made by the inland wetland staff prior to proceeding. So I would like the contractor to call me when he feels he sufficiently has removed the piping and the stone so that I can take a look at it before they then go back with filling and planting. And then the second one that I would recommend, upon completion of plantings, landscape architect shall provide a final report. That's pretty standard on when there is a landscaping plan, that the landscape architect certifies what's been planted and the health of those plants. And any others that you may consider.
This is Angela Jameson. I would concur with Commissioner Sanford that there is an additional condition, which is that upon completion, there will be a further plan presented to complement the wetland plantings.
Completion of the construction of the house.
Completion of construction of the new house, yes.
Any other questions, comments? You feel good about this?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's good.
Okay. Can I hear a motion?
This is Angela Jameson. I move approval of the application with the 3 special conditions that we have just discussed.
I'll second that.
That's Sanford, I'll second it.
Beth, are you gonna second it? Good.
Yes.
Go ahead. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Barbara, you're still with us, huh?
Yes, I'm here. So I was just getting the Cohen property plans up so I can show you that.
So application number 2424, 109 Michigan Road. Well, I could read all this, but I don't think I need to. Barbara Wilson, agent.
You want me to start?
Why don't you start, Barbara?
Yeah, so the owner is looking to do some updates to the property, which includes removing an existing asphalt driveway and resetting the curbing and then re-asphalting it in the same location, which is this, let me share my screen, sorry. Uh-oh, where'd it go? Sorry, I lost the share screen. There it is. Okay, now can you see it? Sorry. So this dark gray is the driveway that they're going to re-asphalt in the same exact location of what's there now and put the Belgian block curbing along the edge, reset it so that it contains it. There is some areas where it's sinking. They're also going to put in a new apron, a Belgian block apron at the driveway entrance. Down there, they'd also like to add 2 new stone piers to complement the entrance and also end the stone walls that are along the edge of the property on the Michigan Road frontage. So that's the hardscape in that area. Also by the front door, there is a retaining wall here, right, that connects to the garage to the steps. It's very, it's about a 3-foot different in elevation. And this wall is sort of failing a bit and we may have to reconstruct that. And that is within the upland review area. The upland review area goes all the way to this line here. The wetlands goes to this line, sort of where the green blobs are. They're also going to remove an existing stone wall that's runs through this wooded area now. They'd like to just make that more, right now they have woodland plantings, some, foxgloves and some flowering shrubs. and things like that, and that's what they want to do there. So they would like to remove the stone wall, and that is mostly in the upland review area, not the wetland area, because the wetland line is here. There might be just a section of the wall that's just starts there. They did install, I haven't seen it yet, it wasn't up when I was there last, a new dog fence basically in the backyard that starts here at the back of the property, runs along this, a wall here, and then through some woods here, and then runs back up the ledge to the back of the house. They wanted to have a safe place for their dog to be let loose and not run off. The fence is mostly in the upland review area. There's only maybe one little section, depending on where they ended up planting it or placing it, which might hit a part of the wetlands down in this corner by this pond. Otherwise, it's pretty simple dog fence, wire with wood. Then in the end of the house, the owners would like a way to, I suppose you've all been there. Basically, the house is on the top of a huge outcropping ledge, and the lawn area and the pond are about 10 feet lower, and they would like to have an easy way to access from the patio or the front door to get down to here to see the pond and spend time in the lawn. They thought, it'd be a wonderful place to relax and look over the nice pond and the new plantings that they plan to put in there. So we're proposing to put in a new stone landing at the end of the house, and then 2 sets of stone steps going down, and then steps going up to the front walk here. Most of this is, or just a little bit of this is in the upland review area. None of that is in the wetlands, but we thought we'd include that because it is going to be kind of dramatic change to this end of the house. We are planning on removing some invasive plants in certain areas, like where these green blobs are here. This is, there are some invasive shrubs and plants, and they'd like to replant with native plants, perennials, ferns, and shrubs in this area. They will probably take out some invasives as needed along the edge of this pond. There is some native shrubs already there, so we're not going to change anything there or along this stream corridor either. Then by the front of the house, we're going to replant the basically ledge area with mostly sort of ornamental flowering plants and evergreens, more like foundation plantings. Most of that is, or just some of that is in the upland review area. Then by the driveway, we're planning to add some more wetland plants to expand. There's existing red maples on either end of this circle in the middle. With a few shrubs, we're going to make this more a planting of natives and ground covers and shrubs to complement the area and sort of enhance the wetland here and remove some of the grass that is in this, basically this white area in the middle of the island that the driveway goes around, trying to make it a little bit better. Then along the edge of the pond, there is some significant trees already there and some plantings and perennials. We're proposing to add in areas where there's some gaps, some more wetland perennials and ferns. And there is a whole list of those plants on the planting plan. But that's basically it. It's where we're trying to make the wetland area and the pond areas have more natives and remove as many as the invasives as we can without damaging anything. So that basically summarizes, just looking to see if there's something I forgot. No, I think that's it. And we are going to be putting erosion controls in during all of the work, especially the work for the access to the masonry work here. We're gonna put silt fence, basically make it a roadway, starting from the driveway, and then silt fence here so that they have, place to store their equipment and the materials without having it drain off into the nearby wetland or pond. Same thing on this side. We will be putting silt fence up along the whole edge of the driveway on this side, and then also on this side, so that when they do the driveway reconstruction, because they're gonna dig the whole thing up, reset the base, so that nothing flows off into the wetlands or into the ponds. So that's sort of my summary of what's happening.
Any questions?
I have a question. I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
Kathleen Holland for the record. The removal of the stone wall that sort of cuts that side yard in half, are you intending to repurpose those stones anywhere on the property?
I don't know that answer for sure, because I know there's lots of stone walls that look like they're in slight disrepair, but I could probably question the owner and find that out for you. But I think I heard that most of it's going away.
Okay. And you may have mentioned this, but what is the method of removal for the invasive plants? What type of machinery, or is it all hand work that you'll be doing in those areas?
Yeah, it's gonna be handwork. The property manager, he does things by going in there with his boots and, in low water times. And so we don't anticipate, chemicals or machines or anything. It's basically by hand.
Thank you.
Angela Jameson for the record. So the dog fence that's been installed, is that an electronic fence or is it a physical fence?
It's a physical fence. I was told, actually it's on, I don't think I have it up. I don't have it up. It's on your third page of the documents that I submitted. It is a kind of a wire fence with like split rail. And it's a
I
little.
did see it. It was there when we did our inspection. And we met the dog as well. So I think that's, yeah, it's a split rail with the mesh, and it has been installed pretty much where Barbara has indicated it has been installed.
But some of it's in the wetlands?
No, it's in the review area. Maybe that's
Well,
just this
Well,
section.
except for maybe this corner over here, and I don't know if I drew it in the right place, because it wasn't up when I drew this, so maybe they moved it a little bit, right? So everything else is in the upland review area. There's none,
sorry,
only
could
maybe
you-
this corner.
Could you point your cursor again? I'm afraid I missed that.
So here,
Yeah,
see, this is
That
the
might
wetland
actually
line,
be-
this dashed, and then this solid line is the fence. So that was the only area that I thought it might hit the wetlands, because the woods actually come, it's pretty steep here, it's ledge, and it comes, steeply down. So depending on what they did here, I asked the fence company to try to not, get too close to the pond, but since I haven't seen it since it got installed, I'm sorry. My surgery, I haven't been able to get out there yet.
so would there be stakes in the ground that were driven into the ground for the fencing?
It's in.
Yes. But stakes were driven into the ground.
Posts, so wood posts that then they staple the wire mesh to, and then they put like the split rails, 2 rails in between the posts.
Okay. I guess I'm just a little surprised they went ahead before they got the permit.
Yeah,
Are you surprised, Barbara?
Kathleen, did they talk to you before they installed this? I thought
Oh.
he said he talked to you about this.
no, I don't recall specifically about the dog fence. I haven't spoken to him in quite a while.
Okay,
Initially, he's been on the property for just a couple years now, doing various things. I don't recollect exactly, but what I would suggest is, I didn't look closely at that side, but I did see a dog fence on the further side, on the
yes.
the other pond side.
Yep.
If there is a portion that's recently been installed in wetlands, that make a special condition that anything that's in wetlands be removed from the wetlands and put into the upland review area. So,
This is Sandy Redden for the record. On the site visit, we saw the posts and the rails and the fence. And the comment was made, this is going to go up as part of the project. He did say that. And if those posts, because I've done those fences, so those posts are generally cemented in. You dig a big hole and put cement and drop the post before you put the rails in. So I don't know that removing them is gonna not create more damage.
yeah, it depends. Sometimes if it's a cedar post, they'll direct bury, but anything can be removed.
Yep.
It might just be a little effort to do that.
Yeah, Barbara, this is Dan.
Yep.
It seems like you have a lot of work to do here. How are you going to handle that? Are you going to, you're going to have many men out there, many workers out there doing it all at one time? Or are you going to have it timed? And how are you going to proceed with getting this stuff done?
So what the intent is, the owner wants to do the new steps at the end of the house first. And then they're gonna do the driveway next, because they're trying to get that done and get scheduled for somebody in the fall. And if it doesn't get done in the fall, then it'll end up being next spring. Because you know how driveway companies are only open, the asphalt plants are only open at certain times of the year. And then the plantings are gonna be slowly over time as the property manager has time. So, he might do a little bit in, this fall, he might do a little bit next spring. And because I think, what is it, 3 or 5 years we have to finish this? It's not gonna, so the plantings are not gonna be all at once. The other two projects, the hardscape elements, are going to be as soon as we can get them in and done. And not to apologize for the owner, but I don't think anybody really told him that he had wetlands or that there was things he could or couldn't do because he had these beautiful ponds that he loves. So it's again, not having the correct knowledge of what was going on with the property he bought.
This is Angela Jameson for the record. Well, these things do happen.
Mhm.
Having said that, if we were to see a plan that involves putting a fence in wetlands when it could easily be put in the upland review area, we would suggest before granting a permit that fence should definitely be in the upland review area, not in the wetlands. So personally, I'd like to see as a special condition that any fence that is in the wetlands, because there does seem to be a little bit of a question mark in your mind about whether it's actually in the wetlands or not. But if there is anything in the wetlands by way of a fence, that it's removed and put in the upland review area.
Yes, can I make a comment? So this whole side, I don't know if you walked back there or were up here looking down, this is a ledge. From here to here is like 10 feet difference in elevation of wooded ledge rocks coming like down. So when I talked to the fence guy, I said, you've got to put it further up away from the wetlands and the stream. And he said, well, I don't think we can, was what he said, because of the ledge, that they couldn't get it to run in there correctly, or they weren't able to, or wouldn't be able to do it safely. So I'm not going to be able to go out there and look, but I will try to go see if they did do what I asked, which was further away. Because I told them to do it another 15 feet sort of more uphill, but I'm not sure it actually happened.
I think when we did the site visit, the wetland flags were still in place, so that will be helpful to identify whether or not you have a crisscross of fencing in that location. Or it's just a mapping, it looks that way on the rendition that's been drawn here. I think could be challenging to put the fence post into ledge, but I mean, again, anything's possible. So we don't want, certainly, I don't think it's that great for a dog to be hanging around in wetlands either. And it is a fairly large area for the dog to go in. So I think there's plenty of options to maybe relook at laying out that fence that doesn't interfere with the wetlands.
Okay.
Anything else? Nothing. Any special conditions besides what Angela suggested?
Angela, I wrote it out all as well. She probably said it better. I said, confirm that all dog fences out of the wetlands, and if not, remove and relocate to upland review area. And the second condition was similar to 513's, where upon completion of the plantings and landscape, architect shall provide a final report.
All right, can I hear a motion to approve with the 2 special conditions?
I make a motion to approve application IW-24-24 with the 2 special conditions as noted.
Can I hear a second?
Second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion's carried.
So thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you next month when I'm able to walk around finally.
Yeah, you're on again next month too, aren't you? Really?
Yes,
Thank you, Barbara.
Yeah, thank you, Barbara.
thank you so much. Good seeing everybody.
All right, moving along. So we, as everybody knows, we've, well, as a reminder, we kept the public hearing open for the July meeting. We opened the public hearing in May and continued it to into June, and continued it once more again into July. However, we hope to close the public hearing tonight. We hope to discuss and vote on the application tonight. We will also discuss and vote on the interveners' recommendations tonight. So here's the order of presentation we will hear tonight. I suggest we hear tonight.
Adam wants to-
Sorry, excuse me just for a minute. Kathleen Holland for the record. Adam Ramirez actually was absent last month, unable to get completely caught up on the application, so he will not be participating, but you can just say for the record that you're not gonna have to go, so.
I asked that I be recused as I was not able to reveal the materials for this portion of the hearing.
Yeah, thank you. Ann. See you.
And this is Angela Jameson for the record. I was unable to attend the June meeting of the Inland Wetlands, but I have watched the video in full and I have reviewed all the records.
Thank you. So continuing, the first thing we want to do now is to see if there's anyone in the audience or on Zoom, because we're opening the public hearing, that has any comments or any questions. Is there anyone in the audience? I don't see anyone. Anyone on Zoom? No?
I have no one on Zoom that has raised their hand.
What was that?
Yes, they're on the Zoom call, but they're not raising their hands. You're interveners, part of the interveners, so
Yeah.
yes. He's looking for other members of the public at this point in time. Since the public hearing is open, they just, always extend it to anyone who else in the public that wanted to discuss the application.
Second, we will next hear from comments from the applicant. These will be answers to questions and comments that the applicant may have on the intervener's presentation in June. And then third, the intervener submitted 2 documents, one today and then one on Friday. One is a 4-page single-space document. That was July 12th with 2 exhibits and many pages, with each exhibit having many pages, and a second 3-page document with the date of today. So I'm asking Attorney Testian to summarize these 2 documents now, or on the third, after the applicant comments on what he said in June. I'm asking Attorney Testian to summarize these 2 documents when the time comes. However, I want to remind him, we only want you to discuss any new material in these documents, and that has not been presented in either May or June. And finally, we will give the applicant one more opportunity to comment on anything or any of this new material that the intervener may have. And then hopefully by then we've had enough, and we're going to close the public hearing and then close the public hearing, and we'll make it, we'll discuss it as a commission and also bring it to a vote. So, yeah.
One additional item, just for the record, Maria Coplet, the town engineer, is also in the audience tonight and may wish to speak regarding the drainage.
Okay. And so any other questions?
Not at present.
So I guess there's no people from the general public in the audience to ask any questions?
No,
This lady just came in.
The only other person I'm waiting to join the meeting is Attorney Peter Gelderman. He hasn't joined the meeting as of yet, but we can
We can
proceed.
start, yeah.
I've notified him.
Okay. Tiger?
Okay.
You're up next.
Well, thank you very much. Tiger Mann, Director of Public Works, for the record. I thought I would just, before we get into the answering some of the questions and the rest of our presentation, I thought I would just kind of bring the commission up to speed from our last meeting that we had until today. We were able to meet with the intervener on July 10th. Myself and Luke, as well as members from McCord and Bill Kenny Associates, along with Jim and Alexandra from Luke's staff, Luke's consultants. So we were able to meet for about an hour, a little bit more, to discuss their concerns. Remember, we talked about the fact that it was basically 3 things that we had, right? We have items that are associated with the project itself, and it's our contention that the project will assist the drainage and actually help reduce the runoff and make it better than the existing, as well as some water quality value improvements. There's a secondary concern from the intervener concerning a ditch that's comes off of the southern catch basin that's further towards the pool. And to that end, I asked McCord for a proposal to review that ditch. I shared it with Kathy, the wetlands director, and I shared it with our town engineer. And I've written a memo requesting approval of that proposal and it's right now pending the Board of Selectmen agenda on the 23rd of July. It's the next time when the Board of Selectmen meet. And I'm fully confident that they'll approve that, and then we'll go forward with that work, because I consider that to be separate from this project, and shouldn't necessarily be a condition for one project versus another. And then the last was the issues with the state of Connecticut. And I reiterated to Luke in that call that we'll help him with the state of Connecticut and the issues that are running along 106. He asked us to have our highway staff go out and take a look at the ditch, the culvert that's running at the intersection of Lapham and 106 that then faces towards his property. And our highway department will do just that and see whether or not we can do some type of cleanup in that area to try to help with the flow itself. So of the three items that they've been concerned with, we can certainly address the one with the project itself. The second one, the ditch, which is in our control, is already in play, and it will come back to this commission. So we'll have Harry's proposal. I'll be receiving a proposal from William Kenny Associates for the mapping. And then once I have the mapping, then I'll get a proposal from RKW to actually have all the flagging surveyed. We'll go forward with a design to help with that ditch and repair that ditch. And then we'll come to you with a wetland application at that time for that work, and then schedule it. And we have monies available in our budget for drainage. So I'm not worried about that as well, so that we're funded in that regard on the town side. So I think that we've addressed those two. And then the third being the state of Connecticut will just be a fact that we'll have to then kind of go back to the state of Connecticut, Maria and I, and discuss what their findings are and what their proposals are, and see if there's anything else we can do to assist Luke and Beth, or Mr. Tashian and Ms. Bernally with those concerns. But I think we tried our best to address all of their concerns, and I'll let the consultants speak to the rest of it.
Thank you. Let me just ask you a quick question. Where can you point out the ditch that you're talking about up there?
Josh, can you show that?
Is it on there?
The cursor, see it up there and moving back and forth.
It's up in the far right-hand side, about 1 o'clock on the picture.
On the right-hand side?
It's 1 o'clock on the
Oh, I see
picture.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
We are not impacting that.
And yeah, and that ditch itself, as we iterated before, is not being impacted by this project. That's why I feel that it should be a separate issue. They brought it to our attention. We feel it's an important aspect. Kathy feels it's important. I feel it's important. Maria feels it's important, and we're addressing it. You know, I can only work as fast as the issues come in, and I think we've been very responsive. And I'll go to selectmen, as I said, get that proposal approved, set Harry to work along with Bill, Mr. Kenny, and we'll be back to this commission with a wetland application at that time.
Will that be next year?
No, that'll be this year.
It'll be this year, huh?
Yeah, that's my goal, is this year. So that's what I've already spoken to Harry and Bill about. So might be a little aggressive, but I've been aggressive my whole life. So. So I'll turn it over to Mike and Josh from Richter and Segan, and then we can answer the rest of the questions.
Good evening, Mike Segan from Richter and Segan. We are the landscape architects on the project team. I just had a few drawings that were minor modifications that were already submitted that I wanted to review with the commission. These were in response to comments from staff, the commission, and the intervener as well. The first is modifying the planting design, that grove of trees that are proposed to replace the existing grove. I don't know, Josh, if you can point those out, next to the Cultex systems. There was a few conflicts. They were really laid out based on the old system. When the system got expanded, the trees impacted that. And so we've adjusted those trees. We now, all those trees are native species, and most of them are better species replacements than what's out there and the condition of the trees that are currently out there. Some of them anyway are not in good condition. We have provided a detailed plant list that shows the proposed sizes, and those were submitted along with the planting plan that shows the location of those trees. We're actually removing 18 trees as part of this project, and we're adding 29 new trees. So there's an additional net increase, and all those 29 are native species or native cultivars. The second change is the modification of the regulated activities plan. If you recall, the intervener felt that the project warranted expanding the regulated area to include the entire project. We didn't have any issue with that, so we have expanded the regulated area to include the project area of disturbance, which is about 6.66 acres. As the director pointed out at the last meeting, this really doesn't change how the project has been presented, nor how the commission has reviewed the project activities. We have from day one presented the entire project, the turf fields, the related improvements to the field, the entire grading for the entire project area, storm drainage and utilities, and the E&S control. So essentially, we've been presenting the project, and the commission has been reviewing it and asking questions for the entire project area. So that really concludes the two changes that were made based on comments. Harry?
Harry Roachville, professional engineer in the state of Connecticut with McCord Engineering, for the record. I just sort of want to reiterate what Tiger sort of went over. That since the last meeting, we have been coordinating with the intervener's engineer, Mr. Sakinchik. Right after we met, I believe it was last Wednesday, Tiger, he had requested that we provide him additional calculations and details in regard to our routing for our stormwater model, and then the water quality volume computations. We gave him both of those items directly after the meeting. Since over the weekend, we received additional feedback with him. We had a chance to review it this morning when we got into the office. His main request was to add a low flow orifice to our detention system to ensure that it drains between storms. We did review that request, and that wouldn't conform to town drainage policy because we wouldn't be able to, one, retain the water quality volume that we're required to. And secondly, we wouldn't be able to control peak volumes of runoff for the property, for the project. So unfortunately, we weren't able to take that request into consideration just because it simply wouldn't meet the town's drainage policy. And even with our request, we do sort of maintain our confidence that our plan is designed to conform to that drainage policy. As mentioned in the last meeting, we've been coordinating with Maria Coppola, the town engineer, for months on this, and we have her positive recommendation. I want to reiterate that we did do soil testing, extensive soil testing in the area of our detention system, and we're confident that it will drain between storms within 24 hours and that the system will operate as intended. They did have a couple of conditions as well in the letter that was submitted today. And I think these are pretty standard conditions for any sort of zoning and building permit. Essentially, we will perform inspections prior to and during construction at several points, several milestones when this detention system being installed. As the project engineer, we do have to certify that it was installed according to our plans and that it generally conforms to the town drainage policy. And also in our drainage report, we already submitted a stormwater facilities maintenance plan that the town will have to adhere to as the owner. So the system will be maintained at least twice a year to ensure that it operates as intended. And yeah, just so it operates as intended. So we're confident in that as well. And that's essentially it. I'd be happy to answer any questions. We didn't have any design changes since last meeting, so nothing to touch on there. I just sort of wanted to catch the commission up on what's been going on the past month and in our coordination with the interveners.
Anyone have a question, comments? No. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Very good. So at this time, we'll wait and listen to Luke and Jim and Alex. And then at that point in time, I'd like to come back and have a final address with the commission.
So you're finished.
We're finished at
For the
present.
time being, and now have Luke get- come up.
All right. Thank you.
What?
Yeah. Town engineer should go next.
Town engineer? Okay, okay.
I just recommend you, the commission, that maybe we hear from Maria Coplet next, based on Harry finishing his review. That seems to make the most sense to me. If that's what you'd like to do next, we'll have Maria come up.
That's right.
Good evening, Maria Coplet for the record. So my last memo that was presented was June 14th. And as Mr. Rocheville indicated, there have been no design changes since then. So there's been no update to that memo. We found at that time that the drainage analysis that was provided to us is consistent with our town drainage policy. And what we had done is, in anticipation of the fact that we knew that we were updating our policy effective July 1st to treat up to and including the 100-year storm event, the applicant had met that criteria. So even though their submission was done prior to that, they met the higher threshold. So that is sufficient. The one last remaining item that we had in our comment memo from June 14th has since been submitted, and that is a sanitary sewer evaluation. The results of camera, TV, CCTV work, and then their findings with their estimates. But that is more part of the overall master plan of the project and our engineering review, and not necessarily as applicable to the stormwater management considerations. I have reviewed the memos that have come
Could
in.
you speak up just a little bit?
Excuse me, sorry. I have reviewed the memos that have come in from the interveners. And the two items that were requested to be conditions of approval, I agree, those are part of either our June 14th letter or part of our standard drainage policy. So for example, the drainage certification letter that is attesting to conformance to the approved set of documents and construction, etc., meets our drainage policy as a requirement prior to CO that the engineer of record prepare for us. As part of our drainage policy, the maintenance and operation plan that has already been presented as part of the original submission is part of our requirements, and that has been reviewed and approved. And then we've also, in our memos, starting from our first memo, May 15th, have said that during construction, that we want a certified inspector to be out at the site at regular intervals and after large storm events. And that is pretty typical with larger projects such as this. It's not an onerous request. We've made this request for other large projects as well. And I think that kind of covers all of my points, but I'm here if anyone has any questions for me.
Beth Sanford for the record. So Maria, so what you just said is that you went through all the paperwork that we got from the intervener today and on Friday.
Correct.
And that the conditions that he's asking for are conditions that you already have accommodated for. So there's nothing new in the analysis.
Correct.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just to follow up on that comment, it's Kathleen Holland for the record. I also did have the opportunity to review the July 15th, July 12th memo. The July 12th information that was provided by Mr. Tashian So I did review through that, and I have similar notes to comments that actually the design engineer made and our town engineer made regarding the 2 additional special conditions that the intervener thought would be appropriate for the application. Similar comments I've written in the sidebar. It's already within our policy to have that as a condition. So it'd be boots and suspenders if you were to add that. It's not necessary. And then the second thing, the applicant has already provided a comprehensive stormwater facilities management plan within their record, which is part of their file and becomes the record that gets adopted or not through this process. So I didn't think there was anything with those conditions that would be appropriate or beneficial, I guess, or add anything to it.
Anyone else? There's got to be a question there someplace. I don't,
I'm here if anything else pops up. How about that?
you what?
I said, I'm here if anything else pops up. How about
I'll
that?
let you know. Okay, thank you very
Um,
much. I'm sorry.
There we go.
Well, Angela Jameson for the record, so I couldn't resist the challenge. So at the very end of your memo dated June the 14th, you said that you will that there should be no additional planting on top of the subsurface system. And I assume that the changes that were just highlighted by the applicant's expert, those are nowhere near on top of the system.
No, and that issue, that comment was addressed at the last meeting too by the applicant that, yeah, it was the expansion
Yep.
of the system when they went to the 100-year storm event. So,
Very good, thank you.
yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think we're fine. Thank you. We know where you are. All righty. Attorney is Alexander going to join you today? I guess not. Huh?
They're on Zoom.
Are they on Zoom?
I believe they're on Zoom.
Yes, Alexandra and Jim are both on Zoom.
I believe I'm going to be the only person talking in the brief. Appreciate Maria Coppolet's review of this, been very helpful. I appreciate Tiger and his team meeting with us last week to discuss our concerns. That was very helpful as well. So as I said, it's going to be pretty quick when I'm going to go through here, but the letter I submitted last Friday, that was in response to materials submitted by the applicant subsequent to the last hearing. They submitted subsequent to the last hearing 2 sets of documents. One, the new plans today showing the expanded upland review area. And the second was Mr. Kenny, on behalf of the applicant, submitted copies of documents that were in the St. Luke's application. Those materials were attached to my letter as well. While the applicant has compared this application to the St. Luke's application, I think it's important to distinguish it from the St. Luke's application as well. In that application had almost no activity in the regulated area, and their water drainage system was, the storage system was entirely out of the regulated area. In this case, all the activities in the regulated area. And the second big distinction from that application to this application is in that application, they were replacing an existing artificial turf field with a new artificial turf field. And in this case, they're replacing grass with an artificial turf field. So I think it's worthwhile to note that these projects are distinguishable from one another. Again, I appreciate some of the comments Mr. Kenny had. In those material at the last hearing, Mr. Kenny stated that to address the concerns of St. Luke's regarding PFAS chemicals, that they included conditions in that application that they'd be willing to include in this application. Those conditions I attached to my letter. So I appreciate that representation by them. And I would request that if this board grants this application, they include those same conditions regarding the certification that the turf is free from PFAS chemicals. In that application, the certification was requested to go to the no walk taxing district.
I changed the language so it'd go to the Director of Inland Wetlands in this, but otherwise I mirrored that language. The second thing in those materials that was of concern to the North Taxing District was what's called a microplastic. In those materials submitted by Mr. Kenny, discussed how a 2-foot cheek wall was being used to limit the flow of the microplastics from the field area to other areas. And that was what was referred to as a first best management practice. It appears they're doing that in this matter as well. So I'd also like that what he held out to be a first best management practice in those materials also be included as a condition of this. Since those were presented by the applicant in his materials, I don't believe there's an issue there, but those were two things I wanted to point out. And the pages attached to my letter had those sections highlighted. Another thing I wanted to point out with their revised plans they submitted, their entire project is in the upland review area. At the last meeting, Mr. Kenny and Mr. Roachville discussed how the system as designed would be collecting and discharging pollutants into the ground under the Coltech chambers and in the water detention basin. They use the terms pollutants. It's my belief that if an applicant comes to this board and says they're going to be collecting and discharging pollutants into a regulated area, the burden should not be on the intervener to establish what those pollutants are that they brought up at the last meeting. I believe the burden should be on the applicant to say, what are they referring to when they're using the term pollutant? What is the effect of these pollutants? What is the quantity of these pollutants? This is all a regulated area that they're proposing the activity in, so those are all regulated activities. The rest of the materials that I submitted included a red line to the conditions on the St. Luke's application, because it seems since they're making a comparison to that application, it would be helpful to redline what we would propose as conditions to this application, to that application. There's a clean copy of what we would propose as conditions attached to that letter, as well as a redlined one to the St. Luke's application, so that those conditions can be reviewed. I submitted a letter today as well. That letter we already heard today has two conditions at the end that they said are consistent with requirements that are already required of the applicant regarding the certification of the drainage system, most notably that old drain in a 24-hour period between storms. While Ms. Holland referred to that as like a boot and suspenders, I would still request, even if it's not required, it's just a boot and suspenders, that those two conditions be included. So the materials that I had, as you'll see at the end of a red line to the St. Luke's conditions, I believe it sounds from Mr. Mann's discussion today that most of these conditions, if not all of them, are agreeable to them. Maybe there's conditions that aren't. I think the conditions that probably would not, that there may still be disagreement on, is whether or not this this matter should be connected to them remediating the severely eroded southern intermittent watercourse that attaches to the southern catch basin. So I guess there's not agreement whether or not that should be, this application should be tied to that application. In this application, we're not saying it's conditioned on that work. We're saying in my proposed condition that he'll submit the application, which it sounds like he's already working on. So maybe he is okay with that condition, but if there's disagreement with that condition, I guess I'd understand it because we've worked through most of the other conditions that I've proposed here. So this is if you see the letter, there's a clean copy of what we'd propose as conditions. And there's also a red line to the St. Luke's. Most of the red lines are changes. They said tonight they were addressing the trees, so I guess that's all set. What other thing was redlined? The 2-foot curb, 2-foot cheek wall. I believe they don't have an issue with. They're including the certification with lack of PFAS. I believe they don't have an issue with. Mr. Mann already talked about, I was going to reach out to the state on the on what the state can do to clean up that area there on the other side where the pipe's clogging. And he also indicated he's going to do it. So I don't believe there's an issue with that, with our proposed condition there. An issue that came up was how is at our call before was how is the riprap going to be installed by the northern catch basin, because they have to replace the northern catch basin with a new basin and a new pipe, and it looks like a tree is probably gonna come out there. That's our last condition here. I don't believe there'd be an issue with that, but you'll read condition 12, is that we're again essentially defaulting to Kathleen Holland and Tiger Man's decision on that and planting of a tree there and things like that. So I think we're close to each other, as I said before, and that's why I tried to redline my conditions. I appreciate the meeting with us. I hope that the board will consider the conditions I attached here in there, again, in a clean version and in a red line version to the St. Luke's one, just because Mr. Kenny brought that up. So it seemed like it was a good starting point rather than reinventing the wheel.
So let me ask you, do you have any meetings now set up or conference calls with Tiger at all?
No, I'm.
All right, kind of summarize what you said, told us right now. Are you pleased? Are you satisfied? Are you?
I don't know.
How do you feel?
I don't know if pleased or satisfied would be the terms I'm using. I'm saying that I
Okay,
appreciate what Mr. Mann has done.
You what?
I appreciate what Tiger Man has done.
Okay.
I appreciate what Maria Coplet has done
Yeah.
with the drainage issues. Her initial memo was kind of what put us on notice, so I really appreciate that a lot. I appreciate Alexandra's and James Sakonchik's advice. I appreciate everything everyone's done on this. I appreciate what this board has done. I appreciate Bill Kenny has pointed out a lot of good points here, like the comparison to St. Luke's. It's appreciated, or William Kenny. And as I'm saying, I think these should be conditions that are incorporated into the decision, though, because they're consistent with the representations that have been made by the applicant.
Is anyone in your?
That's, I had them on in case the commission had a question for them. I have copies of the letter I submitted on today with the 2 conditions at the end, and I also have a copy of the letter I sent Friday with the other conditions. The conditions today were new based on the additional information provided on the drainage plan from Record and Associates, and it's appreciated they provided us that information. So I have the conditions on the 7/12 letter, and then those 2 conditions that Ms. Holland said were kind of like belt and suspenders on the letter submitted today. So I hope that is helpful. But that's
helpful.
That's our position. And again, I redlined it so you could see the differences between the.
You said red line. What do you say?
I typed up the.
You're deleting it? You're taking it out?
I typed up the conditions from the permit for St. Luke's.
Yeah.
And I typed up the conditions and then I changed those, but then the red lines show the changes from those. So where something was added in or deleted. In Microsoft Word, you can have, when you change a document, it can, it'll show the changes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I understand.
So that way I was trying to make it easier to compare it to those, to what you did a few months ago.
You guys you have any questions or comments? I'm sorry.
I just want to acknowledge that Jim does have his hand raised, so would you like to call on his engineer to speak? Or, whoops, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Sorry, just for clarification, I think we're all trying to find the version with the red lines.
This is a printout of it, and I realize it's not color for some reason, but it's right.
I have color.
Really?
But I'm online and I don't see him.
Yeah, I don't see it online either.
It's the last.
Oh, yes, I do. I'm
Second to
sorry.
last
I'm
attachment.
sorry. Yeah, I do see it.
What is it termed on here?
Second to last attachment. It's dated by the date it was filed. Well, he's got copies.
I have color copies.
You do?
Yeah, it's hard to see.
Yeah, I didn't realize this didn't print.
At least it's not the high line, right?
Taking a quick look at that, just
To the end, I think the red line is the last couple pages there, which starts with standard conditions. Couple pages from the end, and then the red lines are kind of essentially the issues discussed tonight.
So just to clarify, the red underlined text here is what you are suggesting should be part of, should be special conditions if a permit is given.
Correct, and where it's crossed through would be something deleted. Condition, 9 is what Mr. Mann discussed tonight on submitting the restoration plan, that it's already before the selectmen. So if he was more comfortable with that condition being stricken. Condition 9 was I can read, was the restoration plan on the intermittent water course. So if he's more comfortable striking that condition, that's something. Otherwise, I'd prefer that it be in there because this is affecting that and they're draining water into that. But if he would prefer that be removed, then condition 9 is something where we didn't necessarily meet.
Kathleen Holland, for the record, I just want to speak to that issue. A couple things I want to speak to, actually. Initially, you spoke about St. Luke's and trying to distinguish maybe comparisons, what it sounded like to this application and St. Luke's application. In my mind, they're distinguishingly different. And each wetland application that comes for the commission is based on the merits of that application, the wetlands on that site, and all the activities that are being proposed. So it's very difficult to combine or try to maybe narrate an issue like in the Capo project to the St. Luke's project, because they're distinguishingly different. Most of the commissioners sat through the testimony for St. Luke's. So I just wanted to put that out there. The way in which the field sits at St. Luke's is totally different than the way in which the field sits at Capo. So I appreciate your efforts in that area, but I don't think it provides any good information for the commission members to be making a decision on this application, but that will be their individual decision.
Comparison to St. Luke's was based on the applicant comparing it to St. Luke's. It wasn't something we brought up. It was something the applicant brought up with the materials submitted subsequent to the last meeting regarding St. Luke's. I would generally agree with that. I would generally agree that different projects, but as the applicant said, the condition on the inspection, they would agree with. And the cheek curb is something they presented as well. So it seems since those were things that they stated they would agree with, it made sense to start there. But again, the comparison is not something we introduced. It was something that, was introduced by Mr. Kenny on behalf of the applicant.
Mr. Kenny may speak to that a little bit further, but I'm not certain because I don't know, I think maybe he had a different reason for which to put that onto the record. But however, it is in the record. The other thing I just wanted to point out is when the commission's going through deliberations and trying to opine on what type of resolution they might reach, special conditions are often suggested, and the commission members typically will come up with those special conditions. You certainly can provide some special conditions, but they're not obligated to take those special conditions into consideration if it's not tied to something that needs to be addressed from the wetland application point of view. So that's something I would caution the commission members on. Especially, I completely disagree with intertwining the ditch, which is going to be addressed on our separate issue, into this project. That would be completely inappropriate in my opinion as the staff person for the town of New Canaan.
Yeah, I would not agree with you on that point, but I'm saying if Mr. Mann was more comfortable with condition 9 not being on this, his representations and your representations that you're working on that, I would understand condition 9 being stricken because we're trying to work here towards agreement.
Angela Jameson, for the record, I think this is not the appropriate place for the commission to be discussing what special conditions may or may not be. I mean, thank you for your contribution, and it is duly noted.
Thank you.
Jim is patiently waiting. If you'd like to, he does have his hand up. I don't know if he realizes he has his hand up, but did your consultant wish to speak?
I think he's trying to speak. I don't know if he's muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Can I share a screen?
Why don't you identify yourself?
Yes, James Stakonchik. I'm a engineer, surveyor, and I've been working with Luke on this, and you might recall I have testified in previous meetings. Is my screen shared?
Yes.
Thank you. I want to state on the record that I am comfortable with the drainage analysis done by the town's consultants, with the sole caveat that I want to make sure that the ability of the detention area to drain is in fact drains. And I have listened to their statements on the record tonight. Thank you very much. I do have one recommendation that I hope you can incorporate as a condition of the approval. On my screen, you can see the outfall manhole where that mouse's circle is. It says proposed outlet control manhole C detail. Over here is the detail. I note that the rim is at 323.3. My request is that rim be a catch basin type rim with openings. The reason for that is it would allow a person on the ground to, perhaps put a ruler through the openings and see exactly where the water might be 24 hours after the storm. And this is something that somebody can do without disturbing the manhole, making it unsafe or anything like that. And hopefully the town's consultants are right on with their interpretation. And in fact, after the storm, the water would be down at this invert of 317.2 24 hours later. I'd love it. I'd appreciate it. But in the case that there is some other condition that prevents that from draining, the water might be as high as its overflow weir, and it would be easy for somebody safely on the ground to see what the condition is and understand whether or not it has drained or has not drained. That is my request for a change. Thank you.
Jim, Kathleen Holland, quickly for the record, I think you might be showing an older plan. These do not look like the current plans that have been provided. So I think, Maria, are you seeing the same thing? These do not have the storms.
Excuse me, I believe that was from the commission in our May 15th letter. We requested additional cross-section detail. Since updated, and that rear has a baffle with near interior wall, also has 2 6-inch orifices in it, and obviously the capacity of that subsurface system is now for 100%.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that because I think you're making comments on an older plan. So I don't know if Harry needs to confirm that as well, but point that out.
What I'm saying is, no matter if it's the latest plan or the older plan, I believe the outfall structure geometry is similar. And if that is the case, by putting a catch basin open type manhole cover instead of the solid cover in either condition, that would make a quick and easy way to see real time what the water volume is in the Coltec system. And I would ask Harry to comment as to whether or not such a situation is possible.
Okay, thank you.
That is my request. Thank you.
Okay, if you can just stop sharing your screen, that'd be great. Thank you.
Could you, yeah, I'm trying to form the question here. Can you tell us specifically what you're suggesting is going to help you? Could you tell us that?
I think saying helps me, it's not necessarily helping me at the conditions regarding the wetlands and water courses, which I think help people besides just me. But, so I would assume your question is, what am I presenting a positive condition? I believe the first condition with the incorporating the language that Mr. Kenny mentioned from St. Luke's about certifying that doesn't have PFAS is important because the materials he introduced showed concerns regarding PFAS. So I would agree we should incorporate the similar language. The materials he submitted included concerns about microplastics, and it also included a recommendation about making sure there's this curb around it to keep those from leaching out. So I believe that based on those concerns, it's worth addressing the spread of microplastics. They presented a new plan now that shows the trees being moved from over the Cultec chambers and being replaced at least in the same number. So sections, condition 7, they're saying tonight is essentially irrelevant because they're going to do that anyway. So whether or not that's incorporated or not, I guess based on the new plans is not of impact because they're presenting a plan now showing that. If the trees were above the Cultec chambers, then it would be adverse with the roots going into them. And we thought that when their new plans went from, the old plans showed 1 tree in the upland review area being removed. Their plans they submitted a couple of weeks ago showed 18 trees being removed. And we wanted to make sure all 18 of those trees being removed in the upland review area were being replaced, which they said tonight they're going to replace well in excess of those 18. So again, section number 7, I had their new landscaping plans incorporate. Question on the cheek wall or the concrete curb, I discussed a moment ago. Number 9, Ms. Holland doesn't agree. It should be included because she sees the southern, the water course into which the southern catch basin drains as being a different project. I discussed that a moment ago. Mr. Mann talked about cleaning up around the pipe. These two, the northern and the southern catch basin, both drain down the hill into this water course. That water course is full of debris that's been washed down the hill. Cleaning out that debris is going to make that pipe work again. When that pipe floods and washes away the topsoil and washes away the bushes and tips over trees, it clearly has an environmental impact. So it makes sense for him to clean up the stuff that is washed down to that pipe. It's not a significant thing, but that's how I believe it would help, is because having all the stuff washed down into there and all the brush around it is flooding the water course and washing away topsoil and washing away plants and things like that because it can't drain. Working with the state to address the stormwater issues. The stormwater issues, while they come from a larger watershed than just this site, the stormwater issues, it's very clear, have an adverse effect on the environment. They're washing away soil, they're washing away trees, they're uprooting trees, they're uprooting all sorts of things. So while the ability to address that in this project does not seem possible because it's beyond this, his statement that he would work with the state to address those, that again is an environmental concern. You know, and it's appreciated because it does very directly relate when the area of flooding is the area into which they're draining the water. And that's having all these adverse environmental effects. Him working with the state is helpful to address those. I don't know what him working with the state is going to amount to. Maybe it doesn't, but it's appreciated him representing that he will. The issues with the northern catch basin, which their new plans show having to be replaced. Again, we didn't go into detail on how that is going to be done with the riprap installed there, which again is why the final condition is saying that Director Holland, Mr. Mann, Harry Roachville, and William Kennedy are going to figure that out. And if they have to cut down that tree over the pipe, which it looks like it will based on the plans, then they're to replace that tree in addition to the trees that were on the landscaping plan that they presented tonight.
Our job is to protect your wetlands, okay? And the regulated area, okay? Our job is to make sure they're protected. And anything that seems to help that, satisfy that, is what we look at. So anything that's tangential, we're not gonna deal with, okay? I can tell you that right now.
There's nothing we presented that's tangential.
Okay.
The evidence presented in the last 3 hearings, I believe it was 3 hearings, all relates to this. None of this is tangential. Whether or not they're cutting down a tree in the wetlands and we're saying you should replace that tree, I think that has an effect on the wetlands, and that's within your jurisdiction. If they're saying because this entire regulated activity is in a regulated area, this is not like another application where they would be doing stuff outside of a regulated area. The statement by them that they're going to comply with the standard that was in the St. Luke's conditions about not using PFAS is relevant. This is a regulated area. If they call it a pollutant and they say they're willing to comply with the standard on that pollutant, I think it's hard to say that that's not something that's helpful to the environment. So I believe that all these conditions that we presented, I don't think there's any disagreement regarding them being related to the environment, except there's the disagreement on whether or not condition 9, should really be done as a separate application. And because they've represented tonight that they're doing that, and that's already before the selectmen and things like that, I would understand that being number 9 being taken out. I think that's where the disagreement is. I don't see any disagreement that these other conditions relate directly to the wetlands and water courses.
To yours.
No, it's not mine. It's
But
all
now-
of our wetlands and water courses.
No, I understand, but you're here concerned about your wetlands, okay? That's
don't
how we look at it, okay?
I don't think that's accurate. I'm concerned.
Okay,
about-
well, that's how we do it.
I'm concerned about the effect of the wetlands on their property and the effect of my wetlands on my property. They're all interrelated.
Yeah.
It's not your wetland versus my wetland, your air versus my air. They're very directly related because they're attached to the same river. But I'm saying in general, these concerns for the wetlands are not my concerns versus your concerns. I think they're everyone's concerns.
Okay.
Again, I appreciate everyone's time on this and consideration. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Tiger, would you like to respond? What? Final remarks.
This is Angela Jameson for the record. I actually had a question for Mr. Kenny,
Oh, okay.
if I may.
Yeah, oh, sure. Yeah, hopefully this will be our final remarks. Yes.
This is Jim Sakonchik. Is it possible for me to share the screen just so that I can clarify my question and request? I think it'll make it easier for Harry to respond to.
Harry, do you understand it?
Getting an indication from Harry, who's already at the table, that he is able to respond to your question. So thank you. I think we're fine.
Thank you.
Chair, is it appropriate for me to ask Mr. Kenny a question?
Absolutely.
At this point, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Angela Jameson for the record. Mr. Kenny, in your memo dated the 3rd of June this year, you said that the proposed synthetic turf material will be free of PFA compounds, confirmed in testing, meet all current industry standards, and contain virgin rubber infill. Could you confirm that the current industry standards include meeting California Proposition 65 and the European REACH standards, and just reconfirm for us that all the material that's going to be used in the artificial turf will have been tested by the manufacturer before being sent to the town?
That is correct. That was those were the standards that I was referring to, the standards from California and Europe. And that the town is agreeing to doing that testing and providing the results to you. That's accurate.
Thank you. So that is in the record as part of the application. That's the point I'd like to make here. Thank you.
So, yeah, so we have just a couple of comments in reference to Mr. Tashian's comments. So I'll have Richter and Segan answer first the cheek wall, because I think that there's a difference between what is on our plan and what is a cheek wall. So just like to clarify that. So Mike, you want to?
Yeah, I think the intent of what Luke is getting at, we're addressing, but I think it's where you're trying to translate from the St. Luke's experience to ours is very different, and the director just mentioned that. The intent of condition 8 is to provide concrete containment of the turf field in the design drawings. However, we don't agree with the wording of the condition calling for a 2-foot-high cheek wall, which is not applicable to our project. And we think, again, intervener doesn't understand the cheek wall detail is applicable to St. Luke's because it was on the edge of a roof, a raised roof deck. Our field is at grade. So it was really an architectural element. It was not part of it was part of the original architectural design. It was not put in response to any of the concerns. It was not based on a request or recommendation or requirement by the Weston and Sampson peer review memo or report. If you actually read the sentence in the condition, it actually says what we're addressing in our plans. And I'll just read it here. It's one sentence. The information about microplastics is advancing, providing a containment curb around the fields. And here's the key: at grade is one of the first best management practices recommended for preventing the migration of small particles outside the field system. We are, in fact, doing that. There is a concrete containment around our entire field, but it's at grade. It's a cheek wall is raised up 2 feet, which is just not an applicable detail. I just wanted to straighten that out so that there was no confusion if there were any conditions added or changed.
Okay. So we can address slightly the Mr. Sakonchik's request to have that as a grate on the catch basin. We would prefer it to be a manhole. We're concerned. One, we already have maintenance, a maintenance agreement 2 times per year that we're going to have to go in there and verify and maintain the system that's already in our presentation, that's already been spoken of and on the record. And we don't necessarily want a grate within the area. It's a nuisance. It's an attractive nuisance, and we're concerned with some people actually putting things into it which then actually affects the condition or the use or the ability of the Caltech system to work if someone wanted to randomly fill it. I know my children, when they were growing up, would like to throw rocks in a catch basin grate all day long. Well, somebody's got to clean that catch basin grate out, and if it's that they're throwing rocks inside that Caltech, I got a hard time cleaning that Caltech. So we would prefer it to be covered, and I think Harry can address whether or not it'll drain. I know that Mrs. Sakonchik is worried about it draining. I think Harry has addressed that, but he can address that again.
Yeah, Harry Roach for the record. Tiger pretty much read my mind on the grade issue. We'd prefer it to be a manhole. As Tiger said, we have maintenance plan in place. I have the same concern about unwanted debris getting into the outlet control structure and potentially clogging one of the orifices due to that being a grate. So we share that concern. And like Tiger said, it'll be a manhole to grade. It could easily be opened by DPW staff and inspected at minimum as we're providing in the maintenance plan, but even more if they would like to after large storm events. It's very easy to pop a manhole. They do it all the time, so we have no concern with that manhole, the ability of that manhole to be inspected, being a solid cover.
All right, then, the other, couple of conditions that, the intervener had written about, he was speaking specifically about item number 9 that he had. And we would kind of further expand that to item 10 and 11, which are basically all the same things, or the things we spoke about. Again, we had 3 items that we were speaking of to the intervener, one of which is the field itself, and we feel we've adequately addressed that. We feel that the field installation is actually going to leave it in a better situation and leave him in a better situation, as we've mentioned, by reducing runoff. And then the other 2 were the ditch, and then whether or not we're going to work with the state. And I don't feel it's appropriate to condition one versus the other. I can't necessarily ask 3/4 of this project, 2/3 to 3/4 of this project is going to be funded by private funds. I can't ask them to then condition their funding on a town requirement or something that the town's going to be responsible for. Specifically, the ditch, we're responsible for that. We've said we're going to address that. We will. We have plans to. We've shown you that. And then with the state, the exact same thing. That is completely out of our control. Since it's a state right away and state drainage, we can certainly work with the interveners, with the Tashians and the Bernalis towards that, but I can't necessarily say that this project should be conditioned upon that. I feel is just not
Tiger,
appropriate.
when you said the state is out of your control, I know what you mean by that, but are you positive that you can work with the state, or they will work with us here? Or are they just kind of giving you, we'll be in touch kind of thing?
They're aware of the situation. They've been aware of the situation for a number of years, and we've actually received positive affirmation of that, where they actually addressed some of the concerns. They put some additional catch basins down on 106 by Jelliff Mill. They said they're actively working on it, and that's better than what we were getting in the past, which is when we studied it and came to them with a plan, they just flat out said no. But of late, I feel that we have traction, not pure positive traction, but they're aware of it and they say they're addressing it. So yes, we can work with the state. We have no issue working with the state, but I can't control the state. That's my problem, is I can't say to them, you need to fix this. They have to come to the table and want to, and then they have their own timeline. So that's the other part of it, is the timeline aspect of it. I don't have control over their budget. I don't have control over their manpower. I can't do that. So I can only say that we will continue what we've been doing, which is to, represent not just Mr. Tashian and Ms. Bernali, but everyone along that corridor. And there are people affected down below as well, and work with the state on that. I just can't have a condition one on the other, because then you get into a time frame situation. And I can tell you that the Capo project will likely run its course prior to anything finally coming to fruition from the state as to whether or not anyone's working on, they're working on the project, but actually shovel in the ground. I can control the ditch. And as I said, we'll be going to the selectmen for approval to that, and I can control that time frame, but I still feel that it should be separate.
Are you working with the state on any other projects for the town?
We have quite a few.
You have quite a few. Oh, okay. Whoa.
We have quite a few that we're
I
working
didn't
with.
know that.
This isn't just the only one. And it runs the gamut of intersection improvements, sidewalk improvements, roadway improvements, traffic signal changes, traffic calming. It runs the gamut, not just drainage. We're working on multiple aspects with the DOT, and we've had very good success of late working with them, and I'm confident that we can get to the table and see some positive direction on this front as well.
So right now, it's the ditch situation that you could probably handle, probably get it done before the end of the year.
Our goal is, that's my goal. I'm sure Harry's not happy that I'm going to tell him he's got to have it all done, but we have to come back to this commission. So there are certain things that have to happen. I've got to finish our plan, come to you. So there's a timing situation there to get the permit to you on time, to then be able to be heard, to then be able to actually work on it. I would like to see it done, or at least have the plan in place to then, have it be an early spring project.
Consider the commission. The 3 things you mentioned, the third is the state, the second is the ditch, and the first is the part. I mean, fixing 123 there, or
I'm
the
sorry,
stormwater coming off the
106.
106.
106.
So that's the third tier. The first one is just the project itself. It's our feeling that the project is actually going to help the people downstream because we're now containing a 100-year storm. So we're showing a reduced amount of runoff coming off from what's existing at present. So we're saying that the project itself will have a positive benefit to the people downstream. And the second one was the ditch. We're already actively pursuing that. And then the third was working with the state, which we say we will as well, which we have in the past and we will continue to do so. I just can't have the other two aspects from the interveners.
Pretty good batting record right there. If you get all three of them, or at least 2 out of the 3 done, that's a good record, good batting record, I think.
I would agree. So we would respectfully not like to have those as conditions, only because I don't feel it's fair to condition one project from another, especially due to differing responsibilities in the aspects of work.
Just to add to that, as the commission knows, the applicant is not responsible for solving everything that might come up unrelated to their project. So they are proposing their project, which they, I think, have satisfactorily addressed the issues related to this project and wetlands. So sometimes we could get on a slippery slope going outside of that area. So I would caution you not to do that.
Anything else that we want to? Bill, anything?
If you'd like, I could briefly address some concerns that were raised about the potential lack of information in the record about stormwater pollutants that was put in the letter on Friday. And I had referenced the last time I was before you, the stormwater quality manual and just how land development is planned and in such a way to protect wetlands and watercourses. And you deal with this with every application that you review, that in the recent manual that was adopted from 2024 has chapter 2, 3, and 4 that deal with this. In chapter 2, they talk about what pollutants you expect to find from different land uses, like from a road, you're going to have gasoline or oil or brake dust. From the atmosphere, you get deposits of some nutrients, phosphorus and nitrogen and dust and sediment. And then from plastics or from synthetic organic chemicals, you might get PFAS and plastics. And then from some surfaces, you get increased heat to stormwater. So this project's not going to have de-icing agents for like a roadway. It's not going to have the gas and oil. It's not going to have fertilizers and pesticides. It's not going to have soil erosion from the field. And then chapter 3 in the manual talks about how do you minimize the potential for the pollutants. And if you can't do that, how do you then mitigate those? So we're going to minimize it by not having the PFAS. We're going to ensure that there's no PFAS. And then we're using the virgin rubber to reduce the potential for heavy metals and things like that. And then, so chapter 3 lays out and says, one of the objectives is to preserve and protect wetlands, streams, buffers, natural drainage systems, and other natural features that provide water quality and water quality benefits. So, and then the manual goes on to 4 and says, okay, how are we going to do that? And they say you're going to use BMPs, structural BMPs, like the ones that you see all the time. These cold check chambers and bioretention basins, like the water quality basin that's proposed. And then it sets a performance standard, and it says if you control what they define now as the water quality volume, then you're going to meet these objectives that they set for protecting wetlands and streams. So chapter 4 sets that standard. Standard 1 in chapter 4 is preserve pre-development hydrology and pollutant loads to protect water quality and maintain groundwater recharge. And that's table 4.1. And then later on, it says you do that by it's right in that same table, excuse me. So then you have your required retention bond for your water quality. It says hold that volume and treat that volume, and then you'll provide that protection. So there was a 2004 manual. 20 years later, they got a 2024. They've taken a close look at it, and that's how it's done. So and that's how we as professionals and you as agency members can review something like this and come to a conclusion. If you're meeting them, that's why there's such close attention paid to the design and standards and making sure that things are designed to those standards. So, and one last thing, since I was involved with St. Luke's.
Get it out.
Okay.
Get it out.
The cheek wall, I went back and looked at that, and Weston and Sampson was hired by the water district, and they reviewed it and came up with the PFAS testing and the use of the virgin rubber. And it was in SMRT's response, which was the consultant for St. Luke's. They said, we're going to do all that. And by the way, we have this containment system. So the school, just by design, the fields have that containment system. And that was on page, in SMRT's letter from March 18th on page 2, that's when they respond to a comment from Weston and Sampson. And they say, we're going to do what you asked, but Weston and Sampson didn't ask for the containment system, but SMRT said, by the way, we have this as an added level of protection. So, and this project has it as well. So just wanted to clarify that it wasn't a request of Weston and Sampson that was representing the water district.
We're about ready to close. Any other
What's-
comments?
Do you have any questions for us prior to us closing?
You know, I have to admit, I'm personally very pleased with how this thing is developed, okay? And I'm also pleased with the intervener because he brought this to your attention, a lot of this to your attention. So I think we kind of worked together on this personally. You know, that's my overall feeling on this, yeah. Anything else from anybody?
Well, we would, well, in closing, we would agree. We think it's an excellent project. We think it's going to benefit many residents for years to come. We think it's going to be a positive addition, not just to the park, but to the town itself. And the interesting thing is that this is actually being funded by the residents, not by taxation, but by donation. So, 2/3 to 3/4 of this project is actually being donated to the town, with only 1/3 coming from the town, or 25% coming from the town itself. And to your point, Dan, we've met with the interveners. We've tried to address all of their concerns. We think the project will benefit them and benefit all the downstream residents. Just by its mere installation, we addressed the town's concerns as far as we took over a 100-year storm event, even though we could have done the previous drainage policy. We felt it was important for the town to lead by example and say, we'll be the first project to come to you with this 100-year storm condition. So I think we've done that, and then the other concerns that the intervener has, we'll work towards that. We've already said we would, and we will. I think that then can address the other aspects of that area, not just the ditch and the wetlands that are directly adjacent to this area of Waveney, but everyone else along the way. So we're pleased with it, and we feel that it'll be a positive benefit to the town, and we're excited to go forward, provided we get permission from you. So we're if you don't have anything else from us, we're good. We just thank you for the time.
Thank you. Any other comments from the commission? All right, we're going to close the public hearing.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, do we have, do you want to take a break or do you want to, should we go right into it? Discuss it? Okay.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for going right into this and discussing it.
I
We've
was-
heard a lot and I'm sure we've all had a lot of time to crystallize our thoughts.
And Attorney Gelderman is on the call. If you wanted to have the review regarding the notice of intervention, any process questions there, he's available to speak to that, or you can decide, start deliberations. I think that was the intent.
Yeah.
Oh, at your desk, I did, because the language can be a little tricky on the notice of intervention. I did provide sort of a template wording regarding that particular notice of intervention. Also, I did provide, I'm calling it a draft example letter of a potential wetlands permit. That's standard of what we would do on when you make a decision on an application. So what I'd be looking for from you tonight is a decision and any special conditions that you wish to consider, and then also your reasons as to why you're making the decision you'll be making.
Do you want to say something, Pete?
Yep, he's on if you'd like him to speak now. It's up to you.
For the record, this is Angela Jameson. We've had a number of decisions where we have had interveners, and typically what we have done is considered first the application on its merits and then moved on to consider the intervention. I mean, typically they're pretty closely intertwined, but that's typically been the way that procedure that we have followed. And I personally would suggest that we do that tonight.
Pete, do you have anything you want to, any guidance, anything you might want to say before we start this?
Sure, just briefly, as Angela just mentioned, you have two votes you'll be taking tonight. One is on the application, the other is whether the intervener has proven through substantial evidence that there will be unreasonable pollution to the air, water, public resources of the state. So it's two separate votes, and as Angela mentioned, typically they are related, but you'll have separate votes. So if you decide to approve the application and you attach conditions, then after that vote is taken, you'll determine whether or not the intervener met his burden and take a vote on that. In either event, when you make an approval, you're basically making a finding that there's no significant negative impact to the wetlands and water courses, but certain conditions need to be attached if you vote to approve. And then if you vote to make a determination that the intervener did not meet his burden, you would provide the reasons for that decision, which typically are that substantial evidence was or was not submitted to support his intervention, and then what evidence you received to suggest that there will not be a negative impact or an unreasonable pollution of the air, water, or other natural resources of the state. So, that vote should have some reasons attached to it, and the vote with respect to the application, assuming you approve it, would have whatever conditions the commission feels are appropriate for that approval, if that's what your vote is.
All right. Well, I'll go first or I'll go last. Do you want to go first?
Sure, Angela Jameson for the record. So just a few observations, not necessarily in any particular order, but it seems to me we had a very comprehensive discussion of the drainage system that is being proposed for the new Copo field. And the experts of the applicant were, in my mind, pretty compelling in the way that they made the case that the project's actually going to decrease the volume and peak discharge of stormwater runoff from the project area. We went into a lot of different details. I think we got a very helpful clarification over the meetings where we have discussed this application from the town's engineers. And I didn't feel that the objections raised by the interveners experts really proved in any way that there is something fundamentally flawed in the drainage system that's being proposed here. So that's, I guess, point number one. Point number two is the science regarding artificial turf is still evolving, and it clearly has changed quite significantly in recent years. But I didn't see anything that categorically proved that in this case there will be harm to the wetlands as a result of artificial turf being installed in place of the current natural grass turf. I suspect we're going to have a lot of conversations in the future about artificial turf, but at this point in time, it didn't seem to me that the points being made by the interveners in relation to the harm to the wetlands met the actual very high bar of showing that there would be significant adverse impacts to the wetland. And then I guess the third point I want to make at this stage is, I mean, clearly there is a very significant flooding issue for residents that live along 106. And it seems to me that it's a complicated situation with potentially a lot of different contributors to that. But I see this application as being separate from one of the significant problems that has been identified, which is the stormwater ditch that the town has said that it will work on improving and will work with the state to try and ensure that the water issues for residents along 106 and in that area are improved. So I don't see really a case here for mingling the two in this application. Thank you.
Commissioner Redden, for the record, and I couldn't have said it better. So I 100% agree with everything that Angela Jamison just said, and I can't add anything to it.
You can?
I cannot.
Okay. Wow. All right.
Agreement.
Beth?
I too agree with Angela's summary. I think the town, Tiger Man and team have been very accommodating to address the issues that were brought up by the intervener. They've met the conditions of, making sure that it's following storm management protocol as described in the 2024 manual. They've added protection. They have they're going to be measuring the PFAS. Our town engineer has approved the plan. The comparisons and some of the conditions that were asked by the intervener regarding its comparison to St. Luke's is not a relevant comparison because of the difference between the fields. And the experts, I think, presented that clearly today to make sure that, we understood those conditions and its difference. I think the rationale for some of the storm management system that the town has recommended makes sense. Tight, as they explain why a manhole versus a cultic. And I think the bottom line is that this plan accommodates a 100-year storm, which level, which they adapted after the first application. And that the experts have led me to believe that the plan will actually reduce runoff and decrease volume, which will be to the benefit of the intervener in the long run. And it's within the scope of the plan, the application that is here, so that I think that everything that is defined in the application makes sense. And I did not find that the presentation from the intervener was proved, their point to change the application as it is.
All right. Me? Okay. Well, I thought the applicant did a very thorough presentation. Every single one of you did a nice job. It's obvious that you practiced, and at least I think you practiced, because you did a fantastic job. I thought your team did, presented very well. And I was impressed really with the expertise that you demonstrated. And you're very thorough and knowledgeable in what's going on. And I was very kind of taken back when Tiger, quite frankly, Tiger, that you jumped right into it and said, we'll help the intervener. I mean, I like that team effort there. And I also want to thank the intervener for bringing a lot of this to our attention, because we may have slipped on this. And I'm a little disappointed that more people from the town, after seeing some of the photos that the intervener had about on 106 there after a rainstorm, those are dangerous things. And I really want to thank you for doing that. Okay. And I think you made a headway. We made headway in the town and maybe taking care of that. But I think the intervener, your presentation was too widespread. It wasn't narrow enough to, it was too general. And I really, that's where I thought that you really didn't pinpoint a lot of the things that were needed. So I want to congratulate, the town team in their presentation, and I would vote heavily in favor of the application. Yeah.
Angela Jameson for the record, but I guess we should discuss
the intervener.
Special conditions.
Special, yeah.
Because we have special conditions that the director of inland wetlands has suggested. And then we had a very long list of special conditions that the intervener has brought forward for our consideration. For myself, at this point, I'm leaning in favor of keeping the special conditions relatively short and basically using the ones that the director has identified. But one of the special conditions highlighted by the intervener, I think is worth discussing, and that's actually the first one about whether or not we want to put in special conditions about the testing of the material that's going to be used in the artificial turf field. I mean, that would be belt and suspenders, because as we heard from Mr. Kenny, It is part of the application that all material will have been tested by the manufacturer and certified to have been tested before it's sent to the town, and that in fact the current best industry practices and standards include the two that the intervener mentioned here in the special conditions. So, you know, I can also see the argument that it might be overkill.
I would just question, was there any special, was there any evidence from the intervener regarding potential impacts from PFAS? I just don't know that there was, so.
No, that is a good point. I mean, there was general information provided in the presentation by the soil scientist Alexandra Mock about the harm that, in her view, would ensue to the wetlands as a result of the use of artificial turf, but it was speculative.
Yes.
Read the special conditions, you would.
Sure. Let's see, we're on.
And I think the first one, Angela, just, it is belt and suspenders. I think it has to be tested, and I think we have to rely on the town that is going to be tested and they're going to see the results. But I don't think it hurts to add that, but I don't know that it.
No, I mean, I suppose one point in favor in my mind of adding is that we did actually specify that in the permit for St. Luke's, and I could see comparability in that respect, different though the two projects are.
And I will say, for the record, I suspect everything we're hearing about these turf fields is speculative, but I think in 10 years, maybe not. So I'm not in favor of AstroTurf or synthetic fields, but I don't think that there's any evidence right now that they're negative to the inland wetlands or the environment.
Right. And Kathleen Holland, for the record, as you are well aware, your considerations are based on the record and what's currently in place. So just, you're aware of that, I know. So suggested special conditions, again, related to the landscaping plan that Richter and Seegan has proposed. On completion of plantings, landscape architects shall provide a final report. That's pretty standard on most planting plans. The next one is probably not written very well, but the intent of this one was to, it's probably incorporated into the plans, but when we're working on a large area like they are proposing to do, that there's management of the areas that are disturbed. So I was sort of going after that, just raising it more to a higher level for the applicant, that they need to be aware of their site and not disturb significant areas before either stabilizing the areas that they're finished working in or installing appropriate storm and erosion controls. I believe the McCord plan does have some good information on that. So it's a little bit of an extra, because that would be, if there was a problem with this actual development, it would be during the construction phasing. So I was trying to cover that area so that we didn't have an impact to the wetlands from a storm event. And again, best management practices, the construction crew, they'll know what I'm looking for there. And then the third one was similar to actually a condition that is in the this wording here. The engineer of record or another acceptable inspector shall monitor construction activities and provide weekly observation reports supplemented with additional observation reports after each rainfall event greater than ½ inch of rain. Reports shall be provided to the town engineer and in the wetland staff for the duration of the construction activities. So the that is a kind of a standard thing that I do see on every report that I received from the town engineer. So we do incorporate that into, I think that is a good special condition.
Anything else as far as the applicant goes? Are we ready to take a vote on how we feel about it? All right, can I hear a motion? If we are ready to, can I hear a motion to take a vote on the, I don't know, the applicant's application, really? With the special conditions that Kathleen discussed, yeah.
Want a motion on the vote, or do you want a motion?
Make a motion on the vote, yeah.
All right, Sandy Redden for the record. I'd like to make a motion that we take a vote on 677 South Avenue, Waveney Park, the Capo Field project. For the approval.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you guys don't need to vote. You don't need, nobody needs to make a motion to take a vote. Somebody should make a motion to either approve with the conditions or deny the applicant, either approve the application or deny it. And then if it's
Got it.
approved with conditions, make sure everybody understands what those conditions are.
Thank you for the clarity.
No problem.
And that's what I believed, which was why I thought it was odd that I was making a motion for a vote. But so I would like to make a motion to approve the permit for application IW 24-14- for 677 South Avenue, Town of New Canaan, Waveney Park, map 30, block 50, lot 121. Should I read the whole? Okay, and then with the special conditions as put forward by Director Holland.
Okay, I just want to clarify. So the special conditions, and you can amend. I'm just going to read them again so that we are clear on this. So upon completion of plantings, landscape architect shall provide a final report. Phase areas of construction so as not to disturb more than, this is condition number 2, more than 1 acre of land without soil and erosion controls being implemented, or permanent stabilization of disturbed areas before moving to next phase. Condition number 3, the engineer of record or another acceptable certified inspector shall monitor construction activities and provide weekly observation reports supplemented with additional observation reports after each rainfall event greater than ½ inch of rainfall. Reports shall be provided to the town engineer and inland wetland staff for the duration of active construction activities.
Angela Jameson for the record. I'd like to second the motion.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion is carried. Yep.
Okay, now you will need to take up the intervener.
Yep.
Have a discussion on that.
Well, as I said earlier, this is Dan. I think the intervener, he had a lot of things, that he wanted to get done, and there were just too many there. And I really feel that it was too, wide, general and too wide-ended to really, figure out what he wanted, quite frankly, and what he was looking for.
Hey, Dan, if I may,
Yes.
the intervener is not necessarily looking for anything. His obligation is to prove, he's got the burden of proof, to prove that the activities are reasonably likely to unreasonably pollute the air, water, or other natural resources of the state of Connecticut. So it's really a question, did the intervener with substantial evidence, which is expert testimony, meet that burden or not. And if he did not, then you would make a motion to indicate that he did not meet that burden and indicate why. And that reason would typically be that he didn't provide substantial evidence of any unreasonable pollution, and alternatively, the experts provided by the applicant gave substantial evidence that there would not be such pollution, and that you were satisfied with that evidence. So that's if you decide to make that determination. If you decide to determine that the intervener met his burden, then you would make a determination that he provided substantial evidence of unreasonable pollution. Now, as Angela mentioned earlier, typically the two resolutions are kind of go hand in glove, but and since you approve the application, that would typically mean that there was no proof of unreasonable pollution. But I'm not saying that's what you have to say. I'm simply saying that there's a consistency there, but it's up to you as the commission to make that determination. So it's only about one thing, and that's whether the intervener met his burden through substantial evidence to prove that this application is reasonably likely to unreasonably pollute the air, water, or other natural resources of the state. So if he didn't, he didn't. And that's all you need to find. If he did, then you find that.
Well, I feel that he did not meet his burden to protect the waterways, the wetlands of the state and of the town. And I really felt he didn't have the expertise to do that, and that's why I feel he didn't make his burden.
Are we ready to make a motion? We can have some more
Any-
discussion.
Well, I think maybe,
What kind of discussion? I
Yeah.
thought,
I agree with you.
Yeah.
That the burden of proof was not met.
this is Angela Jameson for the record. It's a very high bar to be able to prove that the applicant's conduct is reasonably likely to have the effect of unreasonably polluting, impairing, or destroying the public trust in the air, water, or other natural resources of the state. And I too did not feel that the intervener and team met that very high bar, and that a lot of the evidence that was presented was general in nature and speculative.
any other comments?
Well, I think just to add to that, Beth Sanford, is that the applicant did present credible information to show that there was not a likely chance of an unreasonable polluting, impairing, or destroying public trust in air, water, and other natural resources of Connecticut.
Any special conditions on that? Nothing. Nothing.
Just a finding.
Just a finding.
So Angela Jameson, I'm happy to make a motion.
Okay.
My motion is that the commission finds that the interveners have not proven that the applicant's proposed conduct is reasonably likely to have the effect of unreasonably polluting, impairing, or destroying the public trust in the air, water, or other natural resources of the state, and that the commission also finds that the interveners have not set forth sufficient credible and quantifiable evidence to prove the following allegations set forth in their notice of intervention.
And Pete?
Second?
Hey,
You need a second?
Beth Sanford, I will second that motion.
all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Two more things. Thank you, everyone.
Agent report, administrative actions.
One administrative permit was issued for 377 North Wilton Road, St. Luke's Foundation. They are in need of a state and health department mandated septic repair. So there's a small amount of activity in the upland review area, but the project is going forward, and I believe they will do their installation over the school break. So by August, hopefully they will have their system in and repaired.
That's it.
That's it.
Any other comments? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Angela Jameson, I move that we adjourn.
Sandy Redden, second the motion.
All those in favor? Aye.
you.
Motion's carried. Yep.